Good evening, friends, and welcome to another edition of Crime Time with DutyRon and Ed Wallace. We are retired New York City police detectives and 9/11 World Trade Center first responders. If you like all things true crime related from the police detective's perspective, you're in the right spot. Hit the subscribe button, hit that notification bell, like Ed's goes off every time, his phone, he can't help it, so you won't miss any of our notifications when we go live or upload another video. And tonight, we're going to get into the embarrassing testimony by State Police Sergeant Yuriy Bukhenik. This, again, every day, Ed, it seems like it's a one hit after the other. We heard testimony from the supervisor of Michael Proctor, disgraced trooper who was fired from the Massachusetts State Police for texting lewd comments on police department devices back and forth in a group text with his own sergeant. And we heard his sergeant today say he lost 5 vacation days. Big deal. The man is still in charge of major case homicide in the same exact detail he was in 2022. How many of you in the chat feel that that's a slap in the face to everybody that is in the state of Massachusetts and are watching this trial across the globe, across the world? Ed, how you doing today? What do you got going on? I'm seeing something special that you're wearing.
Yeah, this was my old crime scene vest with all my equipment all over the place. It's a fishing vest that I just converted into a crime scene because of all the pockets, and I can put all of my tools everywhere I need to reach and wear it on the over my Tyvek suit. I got to tell you today, folks, I saw this guy's testimony last year, but I didn't think it could get any worse, but I was wrong. It was worse today and yesterday and today. And he's going to be back on tomorrow. I've never been more embarrassed to be law enforcement than from the law enforcement representatives in this trial. This guy just oozes hatred and anger and, he, how dare you question me? Who are you? And he doesn't take ownership.
Arrogant. He comes
off
very
arrogant. Very arrogant. He doesn't take ownership of his screw ups. He doesn't see it as screw ups. It's just one thing after the next thing, and I'm left scratching my head. And he takes my discipline, my forensics, the love of that I fell in love with forensics. And he takes it and he just shits all over it. He doesn't do anything within standard. Okay. Where's your crime scene log? Where's your evidence log? And where's your chain of custody? He goes, well, be redundant. Redundant, my ass. It's a standard. You don't do anything correct. And then he has the gall to say that this was a professional and what was his words? Professional and what was the 2 words he said? Professional and
we're gonna play it, Ed. I don't want to give
investigation. He wouldn't even say that what Proctor did was wrong.
Yeah, he said
he lost 5 days. He lost 5 days.
We conducted this investigation in a professional and an honorable manner. And
bullshit.
When Alan Jackson got a hold of him, it was fireworks, and the fireworks is going to continue tomorrow. But Ed, I got to ask you one more thing, and I put us up close. Are you wearing a Tyvek suit?
I am, because I'm going to demonstrate to you all how to properly collect clothing evidence from a hospital, because apparently between Proctor and this knucklehead sergeant, they don't know how to do it correctly. Yeah. And apparently, their protocols and procedures are such that, they don't have to call the crime scene investigation unit, okay, to come out and assist them, because I guess they think they know what they're doing, but they don't. They violated every rule that I can think of with the handling of the clothes from the hospital, with the collection of 6 pieces of alleged 6 pieces of broken taillight that was recovered like a month and a half after the crime occurred.
Right.
Okay. It just blows my mind to see how worse this thing can get.
Yeah, it's like just when we thought it couldn't get any worse, it gets worse. when you have supervision, you know, look, we saw the supervision from the Canton Police Department. It was despicable. Lieutenant Gallagher refused to get the chief of detectives out of his house. This is what the guy does. This is his forte. He's the chief in charge of detectives. He was a lieutenant at the time, but he was the commanding officer. I didn't think I needed to wake him up. I didn't want him there. What? You want someone who it does for a living, investigates homicides. Lieutenant Gallagher obviously never investigated a homicide in his entire 32 years. Critical Conversations HR, thank you for the super chat. He says, great coverage. I'm hooked on the Karen Read trial. Thank you for continuing the coverage with the Marcy correctional murderers. We're going to continue with that as well. One of them took a plea. We're going to get into that as they all either take pleas or take it to trial. So thank you for keeping up with the murder of Robert Brooks. Ed, you got something to say?
Yeah. So some interesting things that I've seen up in that neck of the woods, because I've done training up in that neck of the woods. All right. Originally, he told the medical examiner that he felt this was a domestic violence crime and it was an assault, and that he was hit in the head with a cocktail glass. Okay. And so that was his original, you know, he calls it a theory. It's not a theory, it's a hypothesis. Okay. But somehow it got changed to Karen Read hitting the car after being told things from his witness, that, you know, the three witnesses that were witnesses at the what is it?
Albert's home.
Yeah, well, they didn't interview him at the Albert's home. They interviewed her at Jennifer McBride. What is it? McBride? McCabe. Yeah, Jennifer McCabe's house. Three witnesses. You know, you don't haul these people back to the station house and separate them, put them in separate rooms and interview them separately. No, you don't follow those standards either. But anyhow, then I see this time and time again. Instead of having the professional crime scene people come out and do the crime scene, these detectives, these investigators come up with what they call a theory, which is really a hypothesis, and then start collecting evidence to support the hypothesis, as opposed to letting the investigation take you where you need to go. Okay. Reading the crime scene and understanding what the crime scene is telling you. Okay. And instead of cherry picking evidence, or maybe in this case, planting evidence. Okay. And you know, because
we've talked about this many times, about letting the evidence take you where it goes. And you even went a step further, that you had said that no sergeant or no supervisor would be able to tell you as a crime scene investigator where to go and what evidence to search for. It's whatever you found.
Yeah, their supervisory rank does not outweigh my investigative
skill set.
I'm at the scene of a crime scene. I'm in charge of the crime scene, regardless of rank of whoever is there. They don't tell me what to do. They don't have my skill sets. They don't have my certifications. They don't have my training. I'm not going to collect things just because some detective has a theory of how he believes things went down, and he just wants me to cherry pick what's there. I'm going to let the crime scene tell me what is probative evidence to collect and what's not.
Absolutely. Hey, I wanted to just say quickly, happy birthday, Granny to the 13th. Granny to 13, happy birthday, many, many more. We're wishing you a happy and healthy birthday. And thank you for being here on Crime Time with DutyRon and being a member. So there she is, member for 13 months. She said, hey, today's my birthday. So happy birthday. Happy birthday. Wishing you many more. KNS, thank you for the memberships, gifting 10. That is very kind of you. Amy, the defense will not be allowed to call any experts like Ed, because Judge Bev made a ruling that they can only cross-examine the prosecution's experts. Correct, Ed?
Yes. Yeah. The jury should all know crime scene investigations. You know, Bev must think you can learn how to do my job by sitting down and watching a few CSI episodes. Okay.
It's crazy.
You know, I mean, that again, that's a judge making these calls. The average lay person doesn't really understand the intricacies of forensic investigations and crime scene investigations. They see a lot of Hollywood stuff, and that's what's called the CSI effect. Because when I end up testifying, I have to dispel all that bullshit you get from TV and Hollywood.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's listen to this piece, Ed, because you have a lot to unpack. I see all kinds of stuff on the table behind you there. You set up a crime scene kit of some sorts of collecting evidence, and we got a lot to talk about. So let's let this play, and then we'll jump right into it.
Friend Boston police officer John O'Keefe. The defense claims she was framed in a police cover-up.
On the scene to keep you informed at every turn.
In Dedham, Katie Benoit, NBC 10 News.
With live updates and legal analysis.
What happens then? Does the trial have to stop? A lawyer's only as good.
I'm playing this because I want you to hear what Karen Read said at the end of the day today. Those of you in the chat, if you already heard her statements, sometimes she comes out of court and talks, sometimes she doesn't. But today, fellas, ladies and gentlemen, Karen Read said something very powerful. So let's listen in.
As his or her word. They failed to stop. A lawyer's only as good as his or her word.
They failed miserably and they'll continue to fail.
On air, online, and on the app, NBC 10 News has the latest on the retrial of Karen Read.
All right, let's get to it.
And was later fired for misbehavior during the investigation. We'll get into that coming up in just a second. But as we always do, let's listen to Karen Read outside court, see if she said anything today.
Made over the shoes, do they match from the picture to what John was wearing?
Just look at the evidence, look at the pictures. I didn't collect them. I've seen that though.
Karen, did you see John go in the house?
I did.
You saw him go in the
I
house.
saw John go in the house.
Did you see John O'Keefe go into 34 Fairview, Brian Albert's home? And she said, yes, he did.
I've seen that though.
Karen, did you see John go in the house?
I did.
You saw him go in the
I
house.
saw John go in the house.
Can you describe him going into the house? Which door and how and when?
No, I have though, and I'm sure the prosecution will play it.
Do you think Proctor will testify, Karen?
I don't believe so, but you've seen this afternoon how much evidence has not been shown to this jury. And we've had to work really hard. Alan's had to work really hard to organize it so that they can be presented with the actual evidence in this case.
Would you call
Proctor?
To be determined.
Karen, what did you think of the difficulty in getting Sergeant Buchanan a direct question?
It was just a little bit worse than it was last year.
Did you delete the ring video?
I wouldn't know how, and I would have no access, and that'll come out on
What do you
Are you
make of the
gonna testify,
difficulty in
Karen?
getting Proctor's name in?
I'm sure you know why we've had difficulty getting his name out there. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks.
So she was alluding to that the judge is precluding them from mentioning Michael Proctor. You saw that in the testimony today. There was
They mentioned Michael Proctor.
but she's saying, I'm going to just go back so we could play this. The reporter asked about the difficulties of, listen to this.
What do you make of the difficulty in getting Proctor's name in?
I'm sure you know why we've had difficulty getting his name out there. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, but all day during the testimony today.
Pretty talkative today as opposed to the past 2 days. All right, we go back to the central debatable point. Did John O'Keefe go in the house? Karen Read has absolutely said he did. I saw him go in. In fact, he never came back out. That's why I got angry and left. The state is presenting witnesses who say he never went inside the house. Also, with regard to that shoe, is this the sneaker-like shoe that was taken off the body and the other one was missing inside the house? Katie, is that what they're talking about?
Yes. So one sneaker was found at the scene later on, and he was brought to the hospital with one shoe on.
PD to arrive to assist us. Once they arrived, Michael Proctor and I exited and proceeded up the driveway. I told Michael.
Let me stop you with what you said. I want to just know what you observed.
Okay.
As you're walking up the driveway, how close to that SUV did you get at its closest?
At its closest, I got as close as me and the defense table, which is probably 10 to 12 feet.
from the 10 to 12 feet, did you notice anything remarkable about the SUV?
Yes, there was a large piece of red taillight cover missing from the vehicle.
Okay, that's at the
Ed, when we look at the Sergeant Bukhenik, I'm looking at his mannerisms and the way he, right from the get-go, right from the beginning. I mean, he was much more comfortable, obviously, with the prosecution questioning him. But once he was crossed, he took that defensive posture. I mean, I know you picked up on that right away, and it just got worse as the time went on.
And it's not a good look for the jury. The jury is looking at this, and I'm saying, remember, like the story I gave the other day, saying they must be saying to themselves, "What an asshole." Okay, to act like this. There's no reason to act like this. Okay, he's acting defensive because he knows that this is all a big screw up on his part and Proctor's part. Now, he lost 5 days for failure to supervise Michael Proctor, because he was in those text change. He should have lost way more than 5 days. Now, I hope the Mass State Police are watching this testimony, all right? Because if this is the level of their professionalism, okay, and how they do things and how they operate, they shouldn't be in the policing business.
I agree wholeheartedly. It's disturbing, to say the least. And the fact that he's still in his position, and I wanted to make a point of that up front, because we have so much to unpack. But I wanted to say right up front, a 5-day vacation punishment, that's a slap on the wrist. And he allowed that type of conversation to go on. He gave it a thumbs up. He saw it. He didn't say, "Hey, what the F are you doing?" And he never reprimanded him. So at the end of the day, this trooper, this sergeant, should not be in the same position he was in 2022, in my opinion. Let me know in the chat. I love to engage with the chat. Let me know in the live chat if you feel the same way. This guy should be somewhere pushing a pencil behind a desk. In my opinion, he shouldn't be investigating homicides. And that's what he's doing for the Norfolk County District Attorney's Office. It's like he almost got an attaboy out of this. I mean, is anybody outraged about that? I mean, I feel that we should all be on the same page as it pertains to Trooper Bukhenik.
Well, it's obvious he wasn't retrained. It's obvious he still takes the position that he did nothing wrong and that his procedures and how he handled the evidence, all of that was great and fine, right? He doesn't seem to understand chain of custody. He doesn't seem to understand evidence logs. He doesn't seem to understand that just by writing stuff on the outside of a bag, evidence bag, isn't a chain of custody or an evidence log. Okay, there were no safeguards or controls of that evidence once they obtained it. It's just ridiculous.
A lot of people in the chat are saying they feel he should be fired. And you know what? I get that outrage. But because of these contracts, look at what happened with Trooper Proctor, folks. Look, Barbara is angry right there. Barbara RN is pissed off. Look at what happened with Trooper Proctor. Once this happened 10 months ago and it came out at trial, well, now what was the Massachusetts State Police doing? They were waiting. They knew about this the whole time. They held back. They let him testify. And then after he testified and made a complete I mean, I have clips of it. I'm going to play it later on. It's going to be tough to listen to, but he called Karen Reed the C word. He talked about that she had no rear end, and he talked about some of her conditions, some of her medical conditions. He called her the C word. He said that he hopes that she dies. I mean, it doesn't get any worse than that. And it took them over 8 months to fire him. They didn't fire his ass right away, because of the collective bargaining and the contract stuff, the unions and all of the stuff. They didn't fire him for such a long time. Remember, we were covering it. We were like, this could be probably in 30 days, he'll be fired. No, that didn't happen. Didn't happen in 30 days. Let us know in the chat if you feel that the Trooper Bukhenik should be fired.
Sergeant.
Sergeant. Yeah, Trooper Sergeant Bukhenik should be fired or not. Put a 1 in the chat if you feel that way. I think a lot of you guys out there do feel that way. Put a 2 in the chat if you think he should have just received more strict or stringent punishment. I don't think he should be investigating homicides because he's already proven that he cannot supervise. He got that failure to supervise, and
he's already proven he can't handle evidence. So call the crime scene investigations team. Okay, instead of the search team, you should have called the crime scene investigation. Then he testifies on that next time where the chief of the Canton police finds 6 pieces of broken glass just as he's driving by the Fairfield location and spots it, and then he collects it. Yuri collects it, but there's no sketch. There's no measurements of where anything was. He wouldn't call the crime scene unit because I didn't want to bother them anymore. Oh, that's their job. What do you mean bother them?
Yeah, 34 Fairview. There was many things that happened there that just don't add up. And again, Trooper Michael Proctor was allowed to go to 34 Fairview and collect evidence by himself, unsupervised. This piece of shit was able to go there and collect evidence or do whatever he did, plant evidence, whatever you want to call it, I don't know if we'll ever truly know what happened to police officer John O'Keefe because nobody's going to come forward and confess to it. And they've already fumbled the investigation. Ed, I know you want to talk about investigation techniques, but before we do that, I wanted to go to you for some of your takeaways from this trooper sergeant's testimony today. He talked about letting clothing dry out due to having the concern for mold and bacteria growth. He did a lot of things that didn't seem to align with protocol.
All right, so let me just explain, folks, how we do things here in New York. When you have, like in this case, we would consider this a cop job. Apparently, he didn't know that John O'Keefe was a cop. He never got that in the initial briefing when he was notified about this case. Okay, but when we have a cop job like this, okay, we send one team to the scene and maybe more, and then one goes to the hospital to document the victim and gather his clothes. Now, in New York City, an aided case, as we call them, this person, John O'Keefe, going into the ambulance and to the hospital is accompanied by a police officer. He doesn't go to, no, it's not just for police. This is for everybody. Nobody goes unattended to the hospital, okay, without police being there. Now, we train our police patrol officers that, yeah, stay with the victim, stay with the body, go into, everywhere you can. Don't get in the way of the emergency room personnel that are doing life-saving techniques, but secure those clothing, secure the clothing off the body, because we know that EMS and if EMS doesn't do it, then the hospital surely does. We'll end up cutting all this clothes off the victim, okay, to work on the victim. And so we have to get control of that clothes as soon as we can, okay? And, we can't control what happens. And when I'm saying we, crime scene investigators, can't control what happens to that clothing before we get there. But when we get there, we sure can take over and then take control. Because if you saw the photographs, the clothing was in a pile on the floor of the emergency room where John O'Keefe lay dead. Okay, they were piled on top of each other. And what did the sergeant and Proctor do? Well, they got themselves a big crime scene bag, okay? And
that's an official crime scene bag, Ed?
It is. This is an official crime scene bag, and you can see the difference, how it's double layered and how all the seams are sealed and nothing can escape the bag, okay? And its cleanliness is vouched for, and the way it's processed and handled. It's not sterile, but it's clean. So what they do, they picked up the 2 articles of clothing without documenting anything and just threw it in one bag together. I don't know what, if they packaged the sneakers separately or if they packaged the pants and underwear and the t-shirt. The t-shirt and the upper shirt went together, but I don't know what they did with the sneaker and the pants and the belt, but they left the socks on John O'Keefe. And to this day, we don't know where the socks are. Yeah. Okay. That's not how you handle that type of evidence. Okay.
Ed, can I stop you just for a second?
Yeah.
There was just a message in the chat said, as a retired PO, I'm very sad to see so much of Ron's discussion spent beating up on procedures instead of the evidence. We're beating up on the procedures that lead to collecting the evidence. So I don't know what that person, Robert Mitchell, was saying, but obviously he's not looking at this thing with a clear lens, because if there was something good to talk about here as it pertains to the investigation of police officer John O'Keefe from the Boston Police Department, we would be the first to be sitting here cheering them on. But there's nothing to cheer on about anything that happened in this particular case. So that comment is an ignorant comment, and I'm going to tell you right now, this is not a place for you. And I don't care if you're retired or what you've done in your career. If you don't see what we're talking about, then you need to check yourself, bud. Okay.
That's right. And if you don't see that they mishandled that evidence, and the evidence is crucial to the investigation, and if you can't see how they mishandled that evidence, and now that evidence can't be trusted. First of all, the way they handled this here, if this was New York City, there would be no prosecution. The medical examiner didn't have a manner of death. There's no chain of custody for any of the evidence. The evidence was not documented. It was not properly documented. There was no sketch, no measurements of most of the pieces of evidence that were collected, and it would have never had a trial. So from the get-go, if you can't call balls and strikes like Ron and I are doing here, and call out our fellow members in blue when they fuck up, then you're biased.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all I have to say to you.
Well, that I would say, I'm not for you. I mean, we're not for you, and you're not for us. Again, to all of the retired and active law enforcement members of the service that watch this, the good guys get this. The good guys and girls get this. The bad guys, the ones that are down with what these clowns were doing that we're playing on the screen here, these clowns, this guy, if you're okay with what this guy and his whole team did here and the Canton Police Department, then you are a piece of shit. And I'll say that all day, every day, to your face, here on our live stream, anywhere, anytime, any day. So you're Audi 5000, buddy. I just blocked that person because that was a real ignorant comment. So Ed, I'm sorry to break up your continuity here, but I had to address that. I don't get
he's not the first.
I don't get triggered much, but I had to get that one.
He's not the first. After the shows are over, I see these idiots in the comment section. All right, they claim to be law enforcement, and they're mad at me for calling out all these problems. Well, guess what, my friends? It's never going to get fixed if you just cover it up.
Exactly.
Okay.
We have Sergeant Bukhenik taking out John O'Keefe's jeans. I got a couple of messages, people talking about the ripped pocket and so forth. But let's talk about what he's doing wrong here, Ed. I know that you and I talked a little bit today. Do you want me to roll this for a minute and then make commentary on it?
Well, I mean, this is the second trial. This clothes has been displayed in two trials. You can see where EMS cut this all up. Okay, or the emergency room personnel cut it all up to get it off of him while they were doing life safety measures. I totally get that. All right, and there's ways to handle it, and they didn't follow the ways to handle it. And I'm going to show you, give you a demo how you handle clothing just like this. Okay, yeah, but so he should have taken his gloves off in between items. Okay. And he stuck his hand deep in the bag, and I don't really like that either. But
Ed, can you address this question on the screen? Because I did it for Amber ATS News. She sent me a message on Instagram. It was the same message as this. John O'Keefe's jeans weren't ripped in CF McCarthy's. Well, EMS, they always cut the clothing off of the person that they're working on. So inside the bus, inside the ambulance, they were cutting away. So it could have been, the pocket could have been inadvertently cut or ripped as they were pulling the clothing off of them and so forth.
Well, the clothing can be examined to see how, in fact, the damage occurred. Okay, was it a tear? Was it a rip? Was it caused by a scissor? In fact, hold on.
I like that you have everything within arm's reach, Ed. I like that.
So here's your typical sterile EMT shears. Okay, and I have them in my crime scene kit, and these things are amazing. You can cut a penny in half with this stuff. But typically, I know Darlene Wolf, I think she might be here. She's EMT or paramedic. I'm not sure exactly which one she is. But you know, so you know, we can. It could be the pants can be analyzed, and you can figure out how that damage did occur.
Yeah. I'm gonna just stop. I'm gonna put it on screen here, Ed. So this is the area that everybody's homing in on. Not everybody, but a lot of people are talking about.
Right.
This.
I mean, that was a pocket. It could have been torn in a fight. It could have been torn when people were trying to move him from the ground to a gurney. There's any number of ways that could have occurred. But again, it should have been. It could have been analyzed under a microscope to see how the damage was created.
Right. Right.
But I doubt they did it because you know, they didn't do much with some of the other items of evidence that they should have done.
Miss Lely says on the screen, did they do any DNA testing on the clothes, pants, sweatshirt, underwear, socks, so forth, sneakers?
Well, they did. I know now that one of the sneakers has multiple male DNA on it, 4 or 5 male DNA, and then the outer shirt, the hoodie that he was wearing, they swabbed random areas and got pig DNA.
Right.
They didn't swab the actual defects that were damaged,
right?
Which it's like, why wouldn't you do that? That's what you should have concentrated on. Okay,
there was so much that they didn't test that they should have tested, and that's what makes this really so. Here's Sneakergate. Sergeant Bukhenik was asked to open up an evidence bag, and inside that evidence bag was supposed to be the sneaker of John O'Keefe that was recovered at the hospital, not the sneaker at 34 Fairview. And he takes out in front of the jury the sneaker that was recovered at 34 Fairview. And the look on the judge's face and the gasp that she gave into the microphone and the way this was so abruptly stopped. Anybody watching today and catch on to this was a big screw up. And Ed and I on the debrief before we went live, we discussed this. So let's listen in. How many of you guys saw this live today? I mean, there was so many people watching all over the place. I was busy. I didn't get the chance to watch it live. I watched stuff on the replay. Watch the judge's face.
Trooper, is that the sneaker that was at the hospital when you visited Mr. O'Keefe?
No, this is the sneaker from 34 Fairview.
Can I have that marked?
Hello, that's the second sneaker from Fairview. You know, one was
a left or right sneaker, sir?
This is the left sneaker. Excuse me, this is the right sneaker from.
That caused a lot of problems at the trial. They had a 30-minute recess.
Sure. If you could put the seat back in bag and let Mr. Brennan bring the bag in, please.
Sir, when we left, we were.
So yeah, that was a big screw up. All right, Ed, so you were talking, I wanted for the audience for you to give your takeaways from the CSI perspective on what we heard about today and what was, and I know you take copious notes. So,
okay, so let's start with the hospital. Okay, with the clothing, they took the 2 articles of the upper body clothing, the shirts, and they stuffed it in one bag. No, that's not how you handle it. Yes, it was already cross-contaminated. It was already mingled together, commingled, but that doesn't mean you keep it that way. You separate them. You stop that. So what I would normally do in a hospital like this, when responding to a hospital, I would set up a clean work area where I would lay down, let's see, hold on. Okay, so I would lay down clean craft paper that we have in the laboratory. I have a plastic baggie filled with rolls and rolls of clean craft paper, and you may see some that's on a table behind me. So I'm giving you a mock clean work surface behind me with clothing on it. Now you lay that down, and then you put a layer of, once you create the clean work surface, then you put another layer of clean paper, and depending on how saturated the article of clothing is with blood and any other type of moisture, you may have to put multiple layers of paper down. Okay, that's your base layer. That's going to go to the back of the article of clothing. Now, as you saw in the case of the pants were cut open, and so now I have to put that back together again to make it look like how the pants would normally appear. And so I put the pieces of the puzzle back together again, assemble it on top of the paper. Now I'm going to photograph, okay, the clothing from directly above, okay, and I'm going to, without scales. Then I'm going to put scales down next to the clothing. So if you could see,
remember, you're plugged in, Ed. You got that
I'm going to drop this. So if you can see, I'm going to put the scales down. That's the way the clothing appears to me. I'm going to come 90 degrees down with my camera and take a picture of this. I'm going to measure this out. I'm going to sketch this. I'm going to document any defects in the clothing. Okay. And then I'm going to take medium range and close-ups of those defects and measure where those defects are on the clothing. All right. Now, what I do next is I stuff a piece of paper in between the cloth all the way through and then through the sleeves.
Mm-hmm.
And then I put another couple of layers of paper on top of this. And then I'll have to, with my partner, I'll roll this up, flip it over, unroll it, and expose the other side of the paper and saving the paper that's on the bottom, and so that I can put it back on the shirt. And then I do the same thing. I repeat that procedure. I'll measure it up and so forth and so on, any damage, and photograph it. And then once I'm done, I'm going to remove these. I'm also going to use an alternate light source. So I have the UV lens on here, and then I have my orange filter barriers, right? And then I'm going to scan the article of clothing for foreign hairs and fibers, okay? And under the orange barrier with UV, it would fluoresce. Then I put the scales down next to it. I photograph it under the UV with the barrier in front of the lens. And then I'm going to do a clear tape lift of the fibers. I'm going to take a small section of tape and lift the fibers, foreign fibers, off the article of clothing. I'm going to transfer the tape to a clear acetate card. Okay. And then I'm going to label this all up, and then I'm going to package it up into a bag and label it. Okay, so I would be using the tape and the acetate. I'd label this up and put the hair lifts in here. So there could have been dog hairs on there. There could have been hairs and fibers from the assailants in the attack on John O'Keefe there, right?
And Ed Wallace, was this done in this case? Obviously,
no, none of this was done. Okay, now I'm going to remove this layer here because I'm going to pull like the Martha Stewart cooking trick. All right. Voila. So here you see paper bag in between the two, the front and the back of the shirt, the paper bag through the sleeves going all the way across, a layer of paper underneath, okay? And then when I'm all done with all the documentation, I put a clean layer on top. And now what ends up happening is I'm going to roll this up. Now, the reason we do this is that so no one side of the article of clothing can touch the other side. If I had bloodstain patterns on here, or if I had other types of evidence here, say I didn't do the tape lifts for the hairs and fibers, and I want the lab to do it. Well, then by packaging in this fashion, all right, no one side of the article of clothing can touch the other side, and it's loosely wrapped. And then what I end up doing is I'll put a bag on this end, and then I'll put another bag on this end and tape this all closed, and this becomes the packaging. Okay?
That's the way it's supposed to be done, ladies and gentlemen.
And this is temporary because you've got to run it to the lab to put it in a drying chamber. what these guys did is they took 2 articles of clothing, threw it in one large bag, and then they left it in the truck of the sergeant for God knows how long. Okay. Then they went back to the prosecutor's office where they had some kind of evidence room that wasn't secure, where everybody in the prosecutor's office that had key card access to the room could have went in. They put this kind of paper down on the floor and then laid out the articles of clothing on top of the paper for it to air dry for 6 days. No, that's not how you handle this. They should have immediately packaged this up temporarily like this and ran it directly to the laboratory where the lab has drying chambers for this type of clothing to dry in. Okay. And then from that point on, you know, they would have needed a chain of custody because you're now transferring it from your possession to the laboratory. And then the lab could have got to work on it much sooner because, as it turns out, this thing didn't get to the lab until almost a month and a half later.
Insane that has happened. Ed, could we see the back of your jacket? People are requesting it. NYPD crime scene unit, and this is official. This is what Ed wore while he was working as an
right
active.
now. You know, I would have had my hoodie up, and I would have had a mask on, a P95 mask on,
and goggles.
No, well, I have glasses, so I don't need the goggles, right? Okay. And so this way, I'm not getting hair, and I didn't have a beard at that time when I was on the job, so I didn't have to worry about this facial hair getting into the mix of the evidence. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Roger Reynolds in the chat says, Ed, this is too much work for those dummies.
Well, you would have had to do this for all the articles of clothing. Okay. I mean, I'm not, you know, this is the standard. Okay. If they're not going to follow international standards, I keep seeing bullshit in the chat section time and time again. Well, you know, you can't expect this kind of work from a small police agency. Well, if you can't do it right, then you shouldn't be doing it at all. And if the Mass State police officers who should have been trained to this level, right, if they can't do it, then they shouldn't be doing it either. Well, you know, that's why people say there should be an independent forensic agency, not controlled by police, not controlled by the prosecutor's office, to do this kind of work.
And to do it right. As this trooper said, we work for the people. We work for justice. We work to get to the bottom of what happened. How could you get to the bottom of what happened when you, like you say, garbage in, garbage out? There's nothing that you could do to fix it once you screw it up. And Ed, thank God we have guys like you that go around through the LSU program and train different agencies across the United States and across the world, for that matter.
Well, here's the thing too. Many crime labs and the crime scene units have ISO accreditation, or what used to be called ASCLD, American Society of Crime Lab Directors, but now it's ISO accreditation. And and in order to maintain those accreditations, you have to pass an audit, you have to pass an inspection, you have to have all your protocols and procedures validated. Everybody has to have training. There has to be proficiency testing, both announced and blind. There's a lot of reporting that has to be done. And then those accreditation bodies come out and conduct audits. And if you screw up like they're doing right here, you could lose your accreditation. What this sergeant did, what Proctor did with the evidence, what that knucklehead in Canton Police Department, Lieutenant, I can't say his name anymore because every time you say that name, every time you say that name of that lieutenant from Canton, I go crazy. I turn into, like, you know, Abbott and Costello or the Three Stooges. Slowly I turn, step by step, and I want to strangle the fucker. Excuse me. I'm sorry. Did I say that?
Hold on. We could beep that out. Katie in the chat, or one of our channel members, says, I was trained through LSU. It's an amazing program.
Okay, Katie. So this is evidence tape, and, you know, it says evidence on it, and you can put it on the stuff. But what else do I have to show you here? Now, if I found blood that was out in that ice, okay, I could have used this system here to collect that sample. Okay, so how we do this? Okay, here's your swab. Down here is your vesicant. Okay, and now if I needed to wet it, I'd put some deionized I'd put some deionized water on it and then swab that blood, get that swab head in there. Now, all I would have to do is put it back in here.
Hold it.
Put it back in here and let it dry.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've seen them use many, many times in the NYPD. Somebody said in the chat, it's Canton, it's not the NYPD, but there's no excuse for that. You know,
listen, you're either going to follow the standards or you're not going to follow the standards. Okay. Yeah. And if you're not going to follow the standards to this degree, you know, I don't know what to tell the citizens of Canton that are paying taxes for these services. Okay. And then I clean all of my instruments that are non-disposable and make sure they're clean before I use them on anything else afterwards. But I tend to use like disposable things like, let's see. Yeah. My scalpels, these are disposable, one-time use, you know, one and done, and, you know, things like that. And you have to change your gloves between each article of clothing. So if there's 2 shirts, a pants, underwear, I need gloves for each of those items. I can't use the same gloves.
Right, right. Yeah.
Okay.
Look at this comment here. Special K999 sends in a $10 and she says, "Hey guys, thank you for explaining this in layman's terms. As a Norfolk County resident, I'm horrified by every step of this investigation." Very well said.
They weren't wearing any PPE. I don't know if they wore the same gloves and just touched all 5 pieces of clothing and put it in the bags. I don't know what they did. Same thing with the lenses that they picked up at the scene, you know, in 2 separate incidences.
Let me trigger you a little bit more with Morrissey's iCloud, aka Denise. Stop and shop bags. Stop and shop bags.
Slowly I turned. Step away from the Stop and Shop bag.
Yeah, exactly. Step away from the Stop and Shop bag. All right. Let's listen to Sergeant Bukhenik give his statement saying that there was no bias and it did not affect the outcome of the Karen Read investigation / non-investigation.
I believe that human beings all have biases, but during the investigation, those biases do not affect, especially in this case, they did not affect any outcome of the investigation.
So I wasn't even talking about this case. I was talking about cases in general and your supervisory role in general. Your job as a supervisor is to seek out and make sure that there are no biases in an investigation, correct?
Absolutely.
You want to make sure that any investigation, as a supervisor, any investigation that is under your charge, under your supervision, is done adequately and professionally. Is that right?
Yes, that is right.
And there is a chain of command for that, right? Meaning someone under your charge needs to report up the chain of command to you, and you have supervisors to whom you report, correct?
Yes, it's a paramilitary structure, and it is in order for the colonel to keep command and control over the entire agency of 2,000 plus people, it is absolutely necessary for there be a reporting up and down within the ranks of the Massachusetts State Police.
And
can I throw the bullshit flag on this guy? Ron, your mic is off.
I know. Hold on a second. Why that happened? And now his mic. Can you hear him?
I'm good. I'm here. No, we can't hear him. Whatever you did, you shut.
I'm not hearing him. So let me put us back, and I'll start this back at 10:30. But yeah, I was just typing in the chat how many people here believe what he's saying. I mean, nobody's buying any of his bullshit. This guy has spent the whole day up on the stand, sidestepping the text messages from Trooper Proctor, sidestepping that he wouldn't even admit that Trooper Proctor was the lead detective. Alan Jackson didn't even get him to say it. Ed.
He was argumentative of stupidness. He didn't have to be this argumentative. Yeah, just say yes and move on. I mean, Jesus, there was no reason for any of this. Excuse me. Okay.
When are they coming and going? Who are they interviewing? Things of that nature. Investigation, correct?
All right, I got it back.
And he was biased because he
have biases, but during the investigation, those biases do not affect, especially in this case, they did not affect any outcome of the investigation.
So I wasn't talking about this case. I was talking about cases in general and your supervisory role in general. Your job as a supervisor is to seek out and make sure that there are no biases in an investigation, correct?
Absolutely.
You want to make sure that any investigation, as a supervisor, any investigation that is under your charge, under your supervision, is done adequately and professionally. Is that right?
Yes, that is right.
And there is a chain of command for that, right? Meaning someone under your charge needs to report up the chain of command to you, and you have supervisors to whom you report, correct?
Yes, it's a paramilitary structure, and it is in order for the colonel to keep command and control over the entire agency of 2,000 plus people, it is absolutely necessary for there be a reporting up and down within the ranks of the Massachusetts State Police.
And you have, by the way, what's your chain of command? Who did you report to back in 2022?
I directly reported to Detective Lieutenant Tully.
Another clown.
Yeah, he's all over this case too.
Yeah. Especially in a case, you mentioned this case a second ago, especially in a case like this, a homicide investigation, especially in a homicide investigation involving a police officer. You have to maintain your knowledge and intimate knowledge of those under your command, under your charge, to ensure that what they're doing fits what you believe to be the proper protocol. In other words, you're not just going to let people loose. You're going to watch what they're doing and actually supervise them, correct?
Yes, absolutely. We are professionals, and we conduct each and every investigation with that in mind and with the integrity that is necessary.
You just used the word I was about to use. That ensures the adequacy of the investigation, correct?
Yes.
To use your word, that ensures the integrity of the investigation. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
As you sit here,
It's pathetic that he even used that terminology.
today, do you believe that this investigation, now I'm going to turn to this investigation, was conducted with professionalism, with competence, at the highest level of integrity?
There we go.
This investigation was conducted professionally with integrity, and all the evidence collected, all the statements collected pointed in one direction. There was no bias influence on the
Bullshit.
evidence, the information that was collected.
This is
bullshit. Why? And then why did Proctor get fired? Why did you lose 5 days? Okay. Why aren't you following forensic standards with the evidence collection and the handling and the chain of custody and evidence logs? All of this is not professional or to the highest degree of integrity.
None of it's kosher.
And you can't tell me there was no bias. You can't tell me you focused on one person and one person alone, and you didn't even ask to search that house. You didn't ask for consent. You went to Karen Reed's dad's house, and you went up on their property without a warrant, okay, examined the car, and then went and seized her phone and her car without a warrant. But you didn't go in the other house and look at those people or interview those people or found out who all was there at that party and interviewed them before you went and seized Karen's phone and Karen's car. Did you?
And the laundry list goes on and on and on of the missteps and the things that were done wrong. But this guy to say under oath that this was an investigation that was conducted with integrity and precision and all the things. Tiffany Knox said it great. He's a gaslighter. Let's listen to this more.
The investigation pointed naturally.
Former Trooper Michael Proctor was the person who's the assigned case agent, the lead case agent in this particular investigation, correct?
Michael Proctor was the case officer for this investigation.
He was assigned, ultimately, to use another phrase, as the lead investigator, wasn't
he? He won't say it.
I'm not going to agree with you.
Is there a reason?
Ed, do you see the way he smiled and laughed?
He's an asshole.
Yeah. Hold on a second.
Pardon my French, but you're an asshole.
Now, I got to say this. It's only going to take one juror to home in on this, but I know that more than one of these jurors have already seen the writing on the wall with the state's witnesses that they've presented on the law enforcement side. Forget about the meteorologist. Forget about the girl yesterday, the cell phone expert. Forget about all of that stuff. These guys alone, Lieutenant Gallagher, the sergeant, the whole Canton rinky-dink police department, the Massachusetts State Police, this particular troop, this particular unit at the North Fork County DA's, the homicide squad, they're doing it. They're going to get Karen Read acquitted of these charges based on this testimony here.
Let me just ask Yuri. Hey, Yuri, if it was your loved one in another law enforcement jurisdiction that was in the same position that Karen Read is right now, and those officers did all the same bullshit that you and your pals did, okay, how would you feel? I don't think you'd be too happy about it, would you?
No, you would not.
You failed the shoe on the other foot test.
Amen, brother.
And that you want to try to distance yourself from naming Michael Proctor as the lead investigator in the case.
Look at the smirk.
Is there some reason?
I am not trying to distance myself. All I'm saying is the term that I use is the case officer. We're simply case managers. There's no leading investigation in any direction.
Oh, stop. It's not, see, he's parsing words.
Yeah.
It's not about leading the investigation in a direction. He is the one responsible for the investigation. He does the warrants. He does the affidavits for the warrants. He makes the arrest. Did you arrest her? Did you slap the cuffs on her? No, he did. Proctor did. Stop the bullshit.
Ed, we all know every person that's in law enforcement that works in a medium to large size police department, maybe some smaller police departments, they have this approach where no one's the lead, and it doesn't really happen in many. But everybody who is in that law enforcement field and people who are family members and relatives of detectives, when you have a homicide detective that's catching, whether he said it was the 30-day catch, if Proctor was on the slate for the 30-day catch and this case comes on, he runs the show. He's the guy. Yes,
he was on call this night. The call came in. It's his case.
Yeah, he said that they do it on, I believe he said they do it on a 30-day basis. Each trooper gets a month where they're the lead.
Yeah, he's just parsing words, and he's fencing for no reason. And he looks foolish in the jury's eyes.
Let's listen to him get even more foolish as he buries his legitimacy to the jury that's listening intently.
This case officer, another word for that. Then would be an investigator, right? He's a detective, an investigator.
He is a detective, yes.
And he was the one who was assigned by the Massachusetts State Police because of his on-call status that night, that morning, January 29, 2022. He was assigned to the case.
Michael.
Assigned to the case. That's all I'm asking.
Well, you said a lot before that, so.
He was assigned to the case. What I said before, that was January 29, 2022. He was assigned by the Massachusetts State Police as the case officer for this case. Right?
No.
Who was?
He was assigned to be on call a month prior. Just because he was on call, he was assigned the case as a result. He was not assigned the case right there and then, because his assignment began much earlier in the day.
Why is he parsing the words here? Why is he? It's just ridiculous. This is not the hill to die on. You already died already, my friend. You just don't know it. Lay down.
He's trying to rescue the prosecution by trying to say that, yeah, he was on the case, but he wasn't the lead, which is an outright lie. This is perjury under oath. But you know what? He's mincing his words to not make it perjury.
I'm glad you brought that up, because yesterday the prosecutor had him testify to the inverted video from the Sally Port. But
Right.
nowhere in the testimony do they, the prosecutor and this witness, tell the jury that that video was inverted and it's backwards.
Mm-hmm.
So they, To me, that is malfeasance.
Yeah.
You know, they're not telling the truth to the jury. The only reason the jury found out about it was because of the cross-examination today.
Right. Yeah. You know,
And how does the judge allow that to happen? This is the second trial. She knows the truth.
Because she's in bed with the whole thing, in my opinion. 06 Yukon Denali, those are great rides. I remember those. That's the Tony Soprano vehicle right there. He says, bye, pension, Yuri. I don't think so, because guess what? Trooper Proctor got to keep his pension. I want to let's set off a little more outrage here tonight. Trooper Proctor got fired, but he's still able to keep his pension. Go figure that one. So this guy, even though he's a disgrace, they'll let him retire, especially if he's got his time in, whether it's 20 years, 25 years, or whatever the case may be. He'll be able to walk away with his pension, because if he's not charged with a crime, which Trooper Proctor wasn't charged with a crime, he was charged with insubordination and departmental charges, and they decided to terminate him. If he's not charged with a crime while he's still active, then he's going to keep his pension. So let me further outrage everybody, just so we're all on the same page. Ed and I, our heads are about to explode. Let's listen to this jerk continue to sidestep and mince his words, as Ed says.
He was on call.
He was.
Correct?
He was.
Because he was on call, any case that happened to come in would be assigned to whom?
To the on-call trooper that's on the schedule.
Which was whom?
It was Michael Proctor.
Thank you.
Pardon my French, but you're an asshole.
Let me just ask you this. Do you believe
That was good timing.
Michael Proctor, his involvement in this case, taints the investigation? Tainted the investigation?
No.
Not at all.
The investigation was done with honor, integrity, and all the evidence pointed in one direction
No,
only.
it didn't.
Honor and integrity by Michael Proctor?
All the evidence didn't, because originally you thought he got hit in the face with
Sure is.
a glass.
Did you see the way he was staring at him?
Michael Proctor?
Look at this.
Pardon my French, but you're an asshole.
Sure is. Everything I say is a question. Honor and integrity by Michael Proctor, Sergeant?
Yes or no?
Sustain to the comment. Go ahead and ask it again, Mr.
I'll ask you again. You said honor and integrity. Honor and integrity by Michael Proctor?
I'll allow it.
Answer
The
the question.
investigation was conducted with honor and integrity, and all the evidence pointed in one direction and one direction only.
Same
So,
stupid.
Sergeant Bukhenik, you don't want to answer my question. Correct?
I will answer your question, absolutely.
Do you think this case was handled with honor and integrity by Michael Proctor, Sergeant?
The investigation was handled with integrity by Michael Proctor.
Yeah.
You do know that he touched or had input in nearly every part of this case, obviously, as the case officer, correct?
He managed the case.
So he had some input or had some connection to nearly every part of the case, be it the physical evidence, the search warrants, the interviews, things of that nature.
He was one of the involved with collecting evidence, conducting interviews, and signing affidavits for the search warrants.
He didn't take a minor role in this case. He had a major role in this case. Would you at least agree with that?
He was the lead detective.
He had a role that was more significant than others. A major role would, to me, suggest that he had 51% or more. And with a team of the size that we had working on this case, he did not have a major role.
What did they have? 4 guys?
Blow it out your ass.
Listen, they made up their mind. They made up their mind without interviewing all the parties involved. I mean, think about how fast they moved and what they did in that time frame. Okay, this is, he has no honor. He has no integrity. He should not be a trooper.
Yeah. he's just, as I said with that soundbite, he's just blowing it out his ass. I mean, this guy is just. I just want to reach through the screen and look. He started off strong, Ed, and I want to say this, like, you know, he served our country, right? He's touted himself as in the military. You know, he served.
No, he was a Marine. He was on the Air Force.
So I mean, I'm not going to take that away from him. He did go and serve our country, but now when he comes back and he said he wanted to, remember everybody that's watched it, everybody that watched it today. I wanted to pursue, my passion was law enforcement. My passion was, you know, being a detective, and he went on to describe all the things that he did to get to where he is here. And now with this case, and everything that he is doing here and that he has done, and he'll continue to do, because there's going to be Alan Jackson 2.0 tomorrow, and he's going to be up his ass picking berries tomorrow. That's for sure. But this guy, again, mince words. Ed, have you ever seen anything like this before? I'm going to put you full screen as I look for something else.
No, I've never seen anything like this. That's why I'm beside myself, man. I'm all about truth, facts, justice, and the victims. Okay. And, you know, he keeps saying all the evidence pointed in this one direction. No, you put your freaking blinders on. You came up with your theory so quick, and you just listened to only 3 witnesses, civilian witnesses, and bam, you know, you went from being hit in the face in a domestic violence assault with a cocktail glass to being run down by his girlfriend. Okay. And then how did they miss all of this evidence? How do you not interview the Alberts? How do you not ask for consent to search the Alberts' house? You do all of these other things, right? How do you not get the videos in the neighborhood? Okay. Right. How do you not get the video of the lieutenant squad commander that lived across the street who provided the red Solo cups? You know, I mean, come on already. I mean, this knucklehead didn't even go to the scene until weeks later.
Right. Lawyer Liv, thank you for the super chat. She says he didn't have 51%. He had 99. No, he was the case lead detective. He had 100% control of this entire investigation. He just, the supervisor, the sergeant, was just supposed to overlook. And look, I worked in the squad. Your wife worked in the squad, Ed. I know that you know about the squad and how it works. We're catching. We get the case. We do our reports. We do our investigation. We do our things. We keep our sergeant in the loop, and we apprise our sergeant of what we're doing. He apprises his lieutenant, and so far it goes up the ladder. At the end of the day, he was asked something so simple that everybody knows. Everybody in the prosecutor's side, everybody in law enforcement, everyone who's friends of who are in law enforcement know that he's full of shit. So thank you, Lawyer Liv, for that statement and the super chat. We're going to get to the super chats. I want to do one more thing. It's only 4 minutes, but this is from 10 months ago. It's Trooper Proctor on the stand, and we're going to hear Alan Jackson cross-examine him. I'm only choosing to play 4 minutes here because it's almost 30 minutes of testimony. I don't want to bore you guys, but I want you to hear how vile this scumbag was and why this Trooper Proctor should have been fired a long, long time ago. It shouldn't have taken 6-7 months for this to happen. But let's listen in on this. And again, if you're subject to PTSD or maybe some curse words or some nasty stuff, maybe you might want to step out and come back. 4 minutes.
To just this one, or the whole page goes in.
You responded to a text message from your sister, correct? And your response was, hopefully she kills herself, correct?
Yes.
Who's she?
The defendant.
Miss Reed?
Correct.
You literally said that you hope that Karen Reed, the subject of your investigation, the woman sitting to my left, about 7 feet from me, that she would just die, correct?
The figure of speech.
You wanted her to, the figure of speech is you wanted her to kill herself.
No.
Right?
No, it's not.
Trooper Proctor, Karen Reed, in your investigation, had quickly become a very serious problem for you, hadn't she?
Objection.
Sustained.
Did you believe that Karen Reed was a problem or an issue for your investigation?
Objection.
I'll allow it.
No, absolutely not.
In your words, quote, all the powers that be, one answers ASAP. That's what you texted on January 29th, right?
Yes.
That put a lot of pressure on you, didn't it, Trooper Proctor?
There's a lot of pressure in every case, sir.
This case involves a Boston cop whose family you were actually connected to, correct?
Loosely.
Chris L. Loosely.
Yes.
Julie Albert. Loosely.
Yes.
Colin Albert. Loosely.
Yes.
Kevin Albert. Loosely.
Yes.
Loose enough to leave his badge and his gun in your cruiser when after a night of drinking, right?
Objection.
Sustained.
You agreed in your group chat that you needed to, quote, make this cut and dry because another cop was involved. Those are your words, right?
Objection.
Where is this?
This was referred to in earlier text messages, group chats.
So is that right? Did you say that, sir?
I did text that. I don't know if it's in the exact context. But yes, those were my words.
Group chat.
Yes, that was in the group chat.
Yeah. And it wasn't John O'Keefe you were
Your
talking about.
friends wrote this whole thing, in their words, stinks, correct?
This is his friend.
Yes, I interpret that as a.
Shouldn't even be talking about this case to anybody but law enforcement, not his sister, not his friends. Ed, you and I know this.
Right.
You don't get into murder cases with, and this is on the 29th, with your sister, with your friends, and he's telling intimate details of how he's thinking. He's giving his thought process. Let's listen.
Joke.
You believed, Trooper Proctor, that your life would be much easier if Karen Read was just dead, didn't you?
Objection.
I'll allow it.
No. Like I had said, it was a figure of speech. My emotions got the best of me based on, the fact that Miss Read hit Mr. O'Keefe with her vehicle and left him to die on the side of the road. So my emotions got the best of me with that figure of speech.
Well, let's talk about your figures of speech. During the course of your investigation, your figures of speech include the following. She's a bitch.
Objection.
Is that right?
Yes.
A whack job, correct?
Yes.
A retard, right?
Yes.
Her balloon knot leaks, right?
Yes.
No ass, correct?
Yes.
She's fucked, according to you, right?
Yes.
Ass leaker. That was a word you used, a figure of speech, right?
Correct.
A girl who shits herself, right?
Correct.
And then fuck her, correct?
Correct.
Jesus.
Would you agree, Trooper Proctor, that you have dehumanized Karen Read during the course of your investigation with comments and words like this?
Objection.
I'll give you this one, Mr. Jackson.
What are you
Would you agree?
doing? See, this is 10 months ago, trial number 1, for those of you who are tuning in that might not know this. Did you hear her? It was almost like she was doing, I'll do you a favor. I'll give you this one. This is what this guy texts on his phone. This is a printout of his text messaging, Ed. And
his fellow troopers and his sergeant were involved in all of these texts.
Yeah, and not this one in particular. This was with his sister and his friends, but there's others that I chose not to play him because he called her the C word. This thing gets really bad, but it's just not. We got another couple of minutes of this, but I want to show you what.
So where's the integrity? Where's the honor?
Right.
Okay.
I just wanted to show this why Sergeant Bukhenik was saying that the investigation still, when Alan Jackson asked him, you're saying this was done with integrity and honor with Trooper Proctor involved? And he still said yes, essentially. He used that stupid line that he used, and he kept saying it over and over again. Like I said, this is fucked. So let's listen here, just another 2 minutes.
Would you agree, Trooper Proctor, that you have dehumanized Karen Read during the course of your investigation with comments and words like this?
Objection.
I'll give you this one, Mr. Jackson.
Would you agree with that?
I would say based off that language, yes.
And you admitted in your own words that the cop homeowner wasn't going to, quote, catch any shit, right?
Correct.
Because you were out to quote, make this cut and dry. Isn't that right?
The homeowner wasn't going to catch any shit because Mr. Elba had nothing to do with Mr. O'Keefe's death.
Because you were going to make sure that the case was cut and dry. Those were your words, right?
Objection.
Sustained.
Yeah. You didn't investigate, so how do you know that?
It would be far easier for you to pin it on the girl,
the
who's
outsider.
just a whack job cunt, in your words.
Oh, you used the
who
C
you
word.
hope just kills herself, right?
He called her a whack job, C-U-N-T. And this was trial number 1. This is Karen Read 1.0. And Alan Jackson did not let up, because this is just a small snippet of what I quickly cut tonight and then put into a folder to play. I wanted to set it up so you guys can see what you're going to be listening to again when Detective Sergeant Bukhenik comes back on the stand, and this man, Alan Jackson, right here, cross-examines him for probably the rest of the day tomorrow, or the good part of the morning. I wanted you guys to see, because we sometimes forget about what happened 10 months ago. I thought this was important to see this part of how really nasty and how fucked up Trooper Proctor was, the lead detective in this case. There's no recovering from this. There's no turning back. There's no fixing it. There's no putting a hole in the dam. There's no plugging it up. There's no covering it up. There's no way that you can't not see this. Ed, I want to do the super chats. I know you got a lot to say, but I want to get to everyone who sent super chats and the regular comments, because everyone that's here, we value our live chat, don't we, Ed? And our replay
Absolutely.
chat. The replay viewers, the people who leave us comments, the super chatters. Thank you, Barb, for the super chat. I think I did get to these already. I already highlighted these. I want to get to the ones that we haven't. Charisma, thank you for the 10. Sergeant DutyRon and Ed, well, thank you for elevating me. Detective DutyRon and Detective Ed, it's been so long since I've caught a live. I hope you're doing great. Is Detective Yuri the same detective from the Casey Anthony case asking for a friend?
No.
I don't think so.
No, that was
no.
Florida.
Yeah. Carrie, thank you for the $2. Watching all day. Bo's up for the defense. There you go. Deb, thank you for becoming a member. Miss Lely, thank you for becoming a new member. Erin Smith, I really appreciate the in-depth analysis on the CSI work. I recently got an offer from my first crime scene investigator job. Dream accomplished. Wow.
Congratulations, Erin.
Ed,
Go get him.
Ed probably has a lot to tell you, the do's and don'ts, but hey, look, Ed, we almost have my shield number in the chat, 4503. We have 4570. Aurora, thank you for becoming a member. Barb, the RN, says Ed and Ron are beyond fair and honest. Well, we appreciate that. We call the balls and strikes, as Ed says, right, Ed?
That's right. Let the chips fall where they may.
Aurora sends in 5 and says, DutyRon and Ed, I want a copy of Ed's 5th edition book. Where can I find it? I've looked everywhere. It's on DutyRon.com. I have a link on our website. Go to DutyRon.com, check out the link. Mrs. Upper Thigh Ponzi Detective, $10. I love these screen names. The outer edge alone was ripped on the back pocket of the jeans. No EMS did that. We don't know. Do we know? Do you have information that
I don't think they may have done it with scissors, but I'm trying to hoist them onto the gurney or whatever the case may be. But it has to be looked at. That's the point. It needs to be looked at.
I agree.
What if the dog did it? What if the dog grabbed a hold of the pocket and pulled it off at the seams?
Right. And people were asking us last night, why didn't they swab his arm for dog DNA? And you covered it. You talked about it. We went over this.
I would have done it at the hospital after I worked on the clothes and taken care of that. I would have called up the medical examiners and got permission to swab those wounds.
But they didn't. Thank you, Terrell, for the 5. Did you had a case that a car hit a person out of his shoes without a bruise or a broken bone?
I've had plenty of cases where people have been knocked out of their shoes, but not without bruises and broken bones. Now, bruise is a contusion, which means there's broken blood vessels underneath it, and eventually it rises to the surface of the skin to create those ugly, unsightly bruises. But I've never had that where somebody was knocked out of their shoes and didn't have these things.
Yeah.
A lot of times the compound fractures occur with those types of injuries. And the shoes are always tied.
Right, right. And in this case, it wasn't. David Anderson, thank you for the 5. Ed Ron, my aunt was the first responder at the towers. She was a dog handler. We saw many dogs in those elevated in the gurneys or whatever you call those cages that they lower down with the helicopters, and I saw them all day going back and forth across the site.
And then we should have known that these diseases were heading our way, because a lot of the animal population will always be affected by those contaminants and toxins before humans will. And those dogs started dying immediately after their service at Ground Zero. And so we should have seen this heading our way.
Clear indicator. She lost her 3 best dogs during the searches. Yeah. It's tough. Thank you, Dave. Tell your aunt that we, our heart breaks for her. And
we appreciate her service, and we mourn the loss of the dogs.
Thank you. Thank you to everyone, all the steel workers and everyone who's helped out down at World Trade at Ground Zero. Thank you for the $20. Torchy Lake. I'm screwing this up. Torchy Lake Girl. I think I'm getting it. Torch Lake Girl. You guys are the best out here, and you are valued. I appreciate your intelligence and expertise. Thank you from both of us. We really appreciate that. Dog Mom Laura, new member. Thank you for becoming a member. And then on top of that, backs it right up. $10 super chat. Thank you for having this great channel. Thank you for being a part of it, because without you guys, we have nothing, right, Ed? We light up a live stream and nobody shows up, then we really don't got anybody. We don't got anything going on. $10 super chat, Redondo Beach. People not understanding the point of this channel are the same who said, your neck looks fine after I was strangled. Not all cops are good or smarty bros. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I got to tell you, I'm sorry to hear that. And I've been to that beach, by the way, in California. But you can disagree with us. You don't have to take our same position, but you do it respectfully, okay? And you say your piece, and you provide your argument. Right. In a respectful manner. If all you do is go on a personal attack, you're gone.
Right.
Okay.
I couldn't let that one slip by, Ed. That pissed me off because, look, if you're going to say something like that, say, hey, look, I respectfully disagree with what you're doing here. And nobody's holding anybody hostage. You could watch us. If you don't like it, you could tune out. We always have people who, along the way were supporters of ours and then didn't like something we said. We're not going to always say the things that you want to hear. And that's what's great about the internet is you have a choice. YouTube, there's hundreds, thousands of channels you can go and watch. Nobody's telling you have to stay here. And I appreciate everybody that's here.
And I say this time and time again, I'm all about the science. Science doesn't lie. As you can see from this testimony, people lie. When I look at the science in this case, especially the accident reconstruction, okay, and then the doctor and the dog expert and the bites and so forth, and I look at all the things that these police agencies are doing that are wrong, and you're only left with, are they really this incompetent, or is it something else? So when you combine the science with the questions I have about how this investigation was handled and what they did and all the procedural and standard mistakes they made, you have to ask yourself why.
All right, let's get to the live chat. I want everyone to, if you have a question, hashtag Ed, hashtag DutyRon, put it in the chat. Shaylin, thank you for the 2. She said, did he need to let Ed testify on all of this? Unfortunately, Bev shut that down. Auntie Bev shut it down. I'm furious that the jury won't get to see this. Bees on Mars, 199 super chat. Yeah, they're not going to see it, but we get to see it, and it's a refresher in our memories, because sometimes you forget about this stuff. The internet has a short-term memory loss period where you see something that's from 10 or 11 months ago, you don't remember it. You know that he's a bad guy, but when you hear what he actually said in text, and that wasn't all of it, it really puts it hits it right in here. It hits you in home. To hear him talk about Karen Read in that fashion, it just goes to show you how unfair this investigation was. Cindy Miller, thank you for becoming a member. I appreciate it. I'm almost done with these super chats. Special K999. Hey guys, thank you for explaining this in layman's terms. I think we did this to North Fork County resident. Upper Thigh. Thank you, Miss Upper Thigh, for the membership. Thank you for being here. Big or small PD, a standard is a standard. This size does not matter.
Exactly.
Get the F out. That is awesome right there. And that gets that won this. Hold on a second. Where is it?
Bad boys, what you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you?
Bad boy.
Yeah, that's a great comment right there, Ed.
Yeah, man. Oh, good.
Cindy Miller, thank you for the 199. We appreciate you. G Lander, I believe they were counting on Karen Reed to take a plea. Yes.
Yeah.
We heard that in Jen McCabe's conversation, right? She
The
doesn't.
family text group. Yep.
Yeah. Charlie, thank you for the 5. We appreciate that. Roller Bones, is it fair to use the snowstorm as an excuse for using a snowblower, which they didn't use? They used a leaf blower. Stop and Shop bags, solo cups, and evidence that showed days later.
No, it's not. It's not fair. I process crime scenes in nor'easters and blizzards. Okay, I didn't do any of that shit, and I got attacked the other day in the comment section of one of our YouTube videos by someone claiming to be a cop. Saying oh, it's not fair. You process a crime. Well, I have.
Yeah.
15 years in the NYPD crime scene unit. You didn't think I worked in winter?
You processed over 2,700 crime scenes, Ed. So, or been to 2,700. Not, I don't like to say homicides, but crime scenes that you processed.
I mean, I wrote a textbook on this. What do you guys, these people that are attacking me, what do you think I do? I just pull this shit out of my ass and make it up on the fly? These are the standards, the international standards.
Bev's effing ethics sent in 5. She says, please tell me how a sneaker was recovered in the snow that was knocked off a foot by a 6,000-pound vehicle and is untied. Thank you. Come again. You're right. There's no explanation. Some people have been on the internet explaining it. Some retired law enforcement people, I'm not going to mention names, but I've seen women and men try to explain that, and it just doesn't bode well with me. Mad 962, member for 5 months. I hope the jury isn't buying this. They aren't. I can almost guarantee you that they aren't buying it. Helen, thank you for becoming a member. We appreciate you. Amy's at it again. Ed Proctor, thank you for the 5. Proctor got dishonorably discharged. Well, he got fired. He didn't get dishonorably discharged. He got fired from the state police. He answered AJ's question. Proctor acted with integrity and left out the honor. Piece of shit. He didn't either. Yeah, they're both. I mean, the sergeant is just as bad as Trooper Proctor, in my opinion, Ed. That's my opinion. He's just as bad because he is protecting him. He's trying to protect the Commonwealth. He's trying to make this all right. There's no way you can make this all right. They would have been better off in saying what Trooper Proctor did was despicable.
And he should have said, what I failed to do.
I learned from this. I made a mistake.
What I failed to do was despicable. I didn't do what I should have done.
Nope. Thank you for becoming a member. G-Land, as a taxpaying citizen juror, I would be furious. Absolutely. Denise, thank you for the $2 massive synonymous with corruption. That's what we're hearing, Ed, right? We're hearing that a lot. And, it's not look, I used to love going to Boston. I don't think I'll be going back there anytime soon because you become a victim of a crime there. What kind of investigation are you going to get from the Massachusetts State Police? If this is a preview of how they're handling cases, I don't want to go anywhere near there. And that's just me. I'm not telling people not to go there. EM9, thank you for the 5. How are the O'Keefes okay with this Looney Tune investigation? I mean, again, I know that's a valid question, but I choose, and Ed, I know you're on the same page with me. I choose not to go after a victim's family, no matter what position they're taking. I'm not gonna comment on it. I'm not gonna say, they're crazy, they're this, they're that. It's their prerogative. It's their loved one, and I just, out of respect, I step back, and I won't comment on that. Ed.
Yeah, you know, I feel for the family, but obviously they're being led astray. Okay. And that's all I'm going to say on that.
Thank you. Lieutenant Dan. Nope. Sends in $5 channel member. How is this even still happening when there has not been no cause of death? I saw a death certificate and it was a certified copy and it said blunt force trauma and hypothermia. So there has been.
Yeah, but manner undetermined.
Right. But they did list those two things on the death certificate and then a copy thrown in there. Tone Sachs sends in a $5 super sticker. Thank you for that. Lawyer Liv says he didn't have 51. Yeah, I think I highlighted that one. Charisma, again, as an Army wife, I will absolutely take that away from him because it makes me question what kind of a Marine he was. I'm guessing not a good one. Yeah, I mean, he's making bad choices right now, that's for sure. This testimony, the 10 months ago testimony, not good. Nationally, $5. Proctor wasn't eligible or able for his pension. He didn't have 20 years. And that doesn't mean that you can't get a partial pension. He could have invested. He could have had, you know, enough time to vest. So nationally, again, if you don't know the system, we can't make those things. But I did a little bit of research into it before I made the comment. And it's my understanding that he got a pension and walked away from it. As they call it, he landed on his feet. It's disgusting to even think of it. Gravely outraged, $5. These idiots don't even take a picture of the taillight. Think about that for a second.
You know, I know a lot of tow truck operators in my day, especially the NYPD. They always photograph the vehicles all around the vehicle before they tow it away, just for the mere fact of protecting themselves from some bogus claim that they damaged the vehicle in tow.
Yeah. Miss Mojo Rising, thank you for the 10. I love it. Mojo Rising. Thank you, DutyRon and Ed, very much for covering this case. I live in Norfolk County. It's a travesty what is happening here. God bless you both. Free Karen Reed. Justice for John O'Keefe. Amen to that, sister. Or brother or sister. I don't know. Male, female. Amen to that. New York Dispatch, $25 super sticker. Thank you. Billy M. I'll give you that one. She's out to lunch. I'm not sure what this is, but maybe it's to Bev. I don't know. I made the comment last night that she had vodka in her in her canteen, in her drinking. I don't know if she's got vodka in there. I got a lot of comments about that too. Gosh, I'm just trying to put a little humor into anti-Bev situation and try to like cool the temperature down a little bit, but it is what it is. New York Dispatcher 20. Thank you. First of all, love your show. This whole thing is a disgrace. Absolutely. I was an EMT for 10 years, and John's face was 100% from a fight, and the arm was from a dog. And we put on Garrett Wing, the dog bite expert, and he hands down. And I yield to the professionals. Me, Ed, and I, we do this a lot. We'll yield to the professionals. He said, hands down, that is indicative of dog bites. He said 100%. Did you hear that last night, Ed?
That's right.
100%. Those are dog bites. And that was Melanie Little.
Moonlight, hang in there. I'll get to you in a second. Go ahead.
Yeah. I'm almost done to the end. The free sandwich became a member. Thank you for becoming a member. Mickey Duff, thank you. Why didn't they drop all charges against Karen Reed in the first trial?
No, they had their target. They were stuck on it.
Brandy Green, thank you for the 5. New here. Been following since the case started. Love you guys. Well, we love that you're here, Brandy, and we're honored. Big time. Maria with the 20. Thank you for your generosity. Hearing from honest detectives like you both restores my faith. After seeing these people that were supposed to protect yet harm so many, thank you for raising your voice. And this is wrong. This is wrong. I hope you're feeling better, Ron. Thank you, Maria. You know, we're going to say this on every case that it applies to. And as we keep repeating, Ed and I call the balls and strikes. So if this case was handled properly, we would be praising them. We don't really like this. We don't like to see this. This is not good. This is not, this makes it so much more difficult for the good men and women who are out there doing things right, because now everyone questions everything that they do. When you
It
see-
hurts. It hurts our profession. It hurts our relationship with the community. It hurts the criminal justice system,
Right.
and it just breeds all of this resentment.
Absolutely. Redondo Beach again. No, the point was that the people don't understand your channel are missing out on the point. Yeah.
Exactly.
Thank you. Maria, thank you for becoming a member. Darlene Wolf jumping in. We love you and Ed, DutyRon and Ed. We love prayers to you both. Thank you, Darlene. Thank you for the support. Brenda, thank you for the 10. If they filed a civil suit, I hope that they make one stipulation that these corrupt adults get CALEA certified, right? CALEA certified. What do you think, Ed?
Okay. What is it? I'm not too sure what that is.
I don't know. That's why I look to you, because you're the forensic expert. Adam Roberts, thank you for the 10. BA dumped John O'Keefe on his lawn because he knew friendlies were coming. If he drove to another town and dumped him, all bets would be off. The Mass State Police have crime scene units. This was intentional. Thanks for sharing your thoughts here. And listen, like I said, we don't know what happened. We have all we're left with is to speculate because of this effed up investigation. If the investigation was done by the right people would be arrested, in my opinion, and they reside at 34 Fairview. I won't say any more. I think that says it all. Adam again. Okay, that's the same one. Ed, I'm almost at the end. Delana, thank you for being a member for 9 months. She says, thanks again for all you and Ed do. Thank you for all of the pertinent information that you bring to us. Much love. Well, we love and respect you back. Let's go to the live chat. Hashtag Ed, hashtag DutyRon. I apologize if you kept putting the questions in and we didn't get to them because I wanted to read those super chats. Moonlight View. There you go. Ed, you're like a switchboard operator. Ed, and I'm going to say this to you.
Stop breathing down my neck.
Come over here, give you. Okay. That said, Moonlight, it's polycarbonate lens. There are numerous scientific studies that you can find on YouTube that show people actually doing these experiments with simulated arms with actually tissue and bone impacting the lens, and it doesn't work. Okay. And the accident reconstruction guys did their testing too, and it's not consistent. The injuries to that arm is not consistent. The injuries to that face is not consistent with being hit by that car.
Absolutely. 100%. Hey guys, let us know where you're watching in the chat, city, state. And if you're new, especially if you're new, first time stumbling across Ed and myself, Crime Time with DutyRon and Ed Wallace, let us know in the chat if you're new, because we would love to say hello to you. Questions, we're at an hour and 37 minutes. We'll go to an hour and 45. So keep the questions going. Ed, I just saw a super chat come up. I'm trying to grab
my overtime slip in. Hey, you know where you haven't seen? I haven't seen Lieutenant and Rachel. Where they been?
They communicate with me regularly. They are doing a project. He's another book coming out and podcasts and the stuff that they're doing. So Ed, did you see that super chat that went by?
No, I'm looking. I don't see a super chat.
Any questions? Here it is. Trying to do something here.
Yeah.
Between Brian Albert, Brian Higgins, and the fighter Colin Albert, I believe John had no chance. There was that picture of Colin Albert, right, with the bruised knuckles. Am I getting that right, or am I messing that up? But there was somebody, one of the young adults, one of the kids had the bruised knuckles, and he posted it on Facebook, I believe.
It's as if these people were hands off. Can't touch them, can't talk to them, can't investigate them, you know, and they were treated with kit gloves, as we like to say. They're being protected. Okay. I in my life, I never saw an investigation like that where you don't canvass the neighborhood and you didn't talk to these people that night. Hey, you got a dying guy on the front of your lawn. What happened in here? What were you doing tonight? Or what time did you come home? How much have you been drinking? Nothing. No questions, no nothing. Can we look around your house? Nothing.
Right.
Okay. And it was funny. Somebody wrote in the chat that if I was living across the street, I would have been able to supply them with all the crime scene equipment.
Right. Yeah. It's true.
I would have, and I would have been able to tell them how to do it right.
The difference is you would have been out there and you would have been helping them. You'd have been like, no, this is what you need to do. Secure the scene and get properly trained and equipped personnel here to do this, to process the scene. Mary Collier, thank you for becoming a new subscriber from West Henderson, Nevada. I've been there. Nevada is beautiful. I've been to many different parts of Nevada. Been into Las Vegas. I love Vegas. So thank you for becoming a new member. Let's look in the chat to see who is here and anybody else that's new. Carolyn, thank you for checking in from Hubbard, Iowa. Here's a question for you, Ed. You missed this. Shame on you. Hashtag Ed, can you talk about the plexiglass that the clothes were displayed in? And I had that up, but I didn't get a chance. They had the shirts in this plexiglass that they were showing in court. You want to talk about that?
I don't know why they did that.
I've never seen that.
I've never seen that either. What are you going to do with it afterwards? Are you going to hang it on the wall someplace? I've never seen clothing presented in that fashion.
It was bizarre.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. All right. So that takes that. Here's another Ed question that you missed. Auntie Ree says, Ed, what do you make of the lack of blood pool in the snow, but supposedly blood drops scattered about? Yeah, supposedly he lost so much blood, and in the spot where his body was removed, there was not a big blood pool there. So that's what I think Auntie Ree is referring to.
There wasn't any proper photographs taken of the drops that were collected in the red Solo cups. And there wasn't a proper documentation of that. And they got the guy with the leaf blower messing things up and so forth. I would have liked to seen those drops so that I can, do some analysis of it. And there's more that could have been done there, but they ruined the crime scene.
A lot of things in this case are bizarre and not something that you would see normally. I got another voicemail from Lieutenant Cardinale today, praising us for what we're doing, and he was fascinated by your demonstration last night that you went into a little bit with forensics, but tonight I'm sure he's really going to be fascinated. I got to remind me to share that voicemail with you, Ed. Kay sends in the $10 and she says Karen Reed did not hit Officer John O'Keefe, and Officer John O'Keefe was not hit by a vehicle causing his death. This is facts.
On this same topic, right? Did you see the testimony today where they showed the video of her backing up and coming in contact with John's car, but yet the sergeant wouldn't initially admit that occurred until the defense team was able to blow up the section of the driver's side rear tire, and at that point, then he said, "Well, based upon that video, it appears the car moved." I mean, splitting hairs with everything. It was obvious that the car was hit. The car wouldn't have moved like that if it wasn't hit.
Right. Yeah. Here's the plexiglass that everyone's fascinated with. Again, this is the first time I've seen something like this.
Is that because of the blood? I don't understand. I don't understand.
We saw masks in CF McCarthy's. The waiters were wearing masks in there, so maybe it was COVID restriction. I don't know. I have no idea, but I definitely never saw this before. And
well, I tell you what, sandwiching that thing in between two sheets of plexiglass like that, it's going to create a lot of mold and fungus and so forth.
Yeah, and he talked about them drying it out for days in the squad there in the North.
6 days on the floor at the district attorney's office in an evidence room that anybody with a key access could have gone in there and manipulated this thing. So there was no security of those articles of clothing that they collected. I said they should have ran it right from the hospital to the Mass State Police lab.
Right.
And right where we have drying chambers, like in the NYPD, our vans have drying cabinets in them. And so we could have put them in our drying cabinets and then packaged them later.
Absolutely. Hey, I want to take a minute to quickly thank our moderators. Our mods are not paid, and as you know, they do a great job for us. So I want to I want to just stop what I'm looking at there for a minute and look at the camera. To the moderators here at Crime Time with DutyRon, looking at our comments in the live chat, looking at the comments in the comment section, you guys are awesome. Joey Brooklyn, Dawn Marie, Kristen does moderating for us, Lexi, Beamer. There's just so many people. Princess Mitch, they show up, and they show up for us because they love our community. So there's Joey Brooklyn. He's the head of security. I'm sorry, I took that comment off. I didn't even see what it was. I just wanted to highlight some of the moderators. So moderators, if you could, please, if you're here, stand up and just, I want to give you guys a round of applause, and I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for everything that you do. Steelers with RSD. What do we got?
Drop the L and then you got that word right. Otherwise, no soup for you. Come back 1 year.
Oh, you are a soup Nazi, aren't you?
No, on the spatter Nazi.
Debbie Galloway, thank you for being here. Again, Karen, Legal Minded Friends, helps out with a lot of stuff in the live streams and behind the scenes. She's always texting me things that are happening. So thank you to everybody who's here. Our channel members go that extra step, and they buy me cups of coffee and the Patreon support. I get Venmos here and there, and PayPals and things like that. Thank you to everybody who supports us so we can continue doing this great educational work on these cases. You're not going to find this on many channels where you get an education. Ed Wallace, the time that he takes out and the passion that he puts into this, he's a teacher. He loves the stuff. He lives it. He breathes it. He'll do this until the day he dies. And I'm telling you, Ed Wallace is a machine. He's made for this stuff. So thank you, Ed, for not only educating our audience, but also educating me as it pertains to stuff that I wasn't aware of. Trophy Wife, thank you for the 5. Hello from Smith Stations, Alabama. Was it Higgins that threw his phone away on the military post he was driving through? Yes, to make sure it wouldn't be used. He took the memory card out, crushed it, did all this craziness to it and threw it out. Everything about this case, all of these players, Brian Albert, Kevin Albert, the Mick Alberts, and
ask yourself, folks, are all the actions of these people normal? Okay, no. Jennifer made over 200 phone calls in 3 days. 200 phone calls. Is this amazing or what? Okay. Who does that? Okay.
Insane. Yeah. Insane. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. There's so much more that we don't have time to get into. We're already going close to 2 hours. But I want to say thank you to some of the workers that work in at my location in the warehouse where I work. I want to thank the workers who are watching. A whole bunch of them are watching live right now. They watched us last night because they are also following this Karen Read case. So thank you to all the guys and girls who are watching, but especially I want to say thank you to Mark, the warehouse manager, for being a channel member and supporting this community. Gio from the returns department, supervisors from shipping, and all the men and women that work really hard all day are out there watching us, and they love you and I. Ed, they get me all day, every day, but they don't get you often. So they're like, that guy Ed is awesome. So next time you come to the warehouse, I'll have to introduce you to him. Maybe you can shake some hands and kiss some babies and sign some books.
I met him.
Yeah, but you didn't meet them all.
Right.
Anyways, thank you to the replay viewers. Thank you to everyone who's here watching live. Replay viewers, we love you. We appreciate you. Joey Brooklyn's got a great channel. I'm going to highlight him right here. He's got a great channel. Oh, no. Everyone go subscribe to Joey Brooklyn. He does a lot of really good stuff. Ed with the Stop and Shop bag. But let's reel it back in. This is about Police Officer John O'Keefe. And
Amen.
I can't, I cannot do one of these shows on this case without mentioning him. He lost his life. He was murdered that night. And I believe that they are trying the wrong person here. And I don't believe that we will ever get the right answers to what happened to him. But I pray that we do. And I pray that one day that the FBI is in fact looking into this, and the players that think that they got away with this, maybe one day they won't, and maybe they will. That long arm of the law will reach out and catch them.
Okay, folks, what do I tell you all? There's three things that can't be hidden for very long: the sun, the moon, and the truth.
Amen, brother. I just want to play this because I know it's a little bit of a tribute to Police Officer John O'Keefe, and I want to thank Boston 10 for doing this.
We want to take a moment to remember John O'Keefe, the victim in this case. The Braintree native was a police officer who became the legal guardian of his niece and nephew after an unimaginable family tragedy. Canton Confidential, the Karen Read murder trial. We'll be back right after that.
So that was classy of them to do that. You don't see Court TV or, Law and Crime do that. And I thought that was really classy of Boston 10 to keep it and reel in what's most important here. So on behalf of Crime Time with DutyRon and Ed Wallace, I want to thank you all for being here. Justice for John O'Keefe, justice for Karen Read, because I do feel that she is wrongfully accused and being tried a second time for a crime that she didn't commit. We'll see you all on the next one. We're going to be watching tomorrow. Ed, you're off tomorrow again?
Yep.
Yeah, we're going to be watching. Thank you to the live chatters for being respectful. I see a lot of rest in peace, John, and some free Karen Read comments in there. These are, again, all things that are very important and that should be at the forefront. So on behalf of Crime Time with DutyRon and Ed Wallace, we want to wish you a good night. Thank you for joining, and God bless. We'll see you soon.